ready to embark on a journey towards becoming the next generation of millionaires, the faithful way.
It is another beautiful edition of the next generation millionaires right here on Radio Christian Voice, RCV, your home since 94. My name is Kunda, and in the studio with me, I have Dr. Kennedy Musonda. How are you?
Very well, sir. How are you? How have you been?
I've been okay. How's been the week?
The week has been okay. Thank you very much.
I was looking forward to this time.
Indeed. Even me. I mean, it's just good to talk to young people. I love, children, and I love young people because of the future and the optimism, enthusiasm, energy. So that's why I love to work with young people, talk to young people, encourage young people, because I was once young, as the Bible says, and now I'm old.
No, now I'm old.
And I've seen what young people can go through and what challenges and all that. But I've also raised young people. All my children, youths. So, yeah.
That passion for young people. And I love the passion that you have for young people. And on this particular program, the next generation of millionaires, the focus is on young people. So I'd love us to get into that. Why have you focused on young people instead of the adults?
Well, it's an interesting question. Some of the reasons, I think other people may not like it. But let me begin with less controversial reasons. In the first place, young people are actually the future of any society. Right now, some societies, maybe Asia, Europe, Americas, you find that they may not exist after 100 years or 200 years because they are not having. You have more older people than young people. It's Africa is one of the continents where you have more young people than older people. So for us, it's the other way around, which means we have hope, we have the future. But the question is, what sort of young people are we having? Are we preparing for the future? So that is the challenge, and that's why, for me, it's very important for us to actually invest in young people. Because they are the future generation. They are the future leaders. They are the future parents. They are the future pastors, the future broadcasters. So the quality of life or the type of society we are going to have in future depends on how much investment we are putting in young people. We should not be like Hezekiah when he was told by the prophet, I think that must be Isaiah, that, when he fell sick and then some visitors came, he showed them everything, all the secrets, state secrets. And then the prophet says, what did you show them? He said, I showed them everything. And the prophet, God was mad at him and sent the prophet. And so the man asked for forgiveness, and God says, no, okay, this will not happen in your generation. And the way he answered, at least it will not happen in my generation. We have that mentality, where, baka imwena bene, fika imwene fibana. We don't care about the next generation. Many people will not care about the next generation. So that, for me, is very important. I want a society in which my grandchildren will grow, which will be better than the society I've grown in. But it can only be better depending on how much investments we put in the young people. So that is one of the reasons. The other reason, which I'm saying other people may not like, is that older people, a lot of older people are set in their minds. They are fixed. The last program I was talking about the metaphor of an old man. The Bible calls the sinful nature as an old man. Older people, not old, older people, they have developed, they are stuck in their ways, You'll find a person who talk about how to create wealth, but himself has not created any wealth. You'll find people saying, no, and you're going to this business, you can never go wrong. How can you say that? Because things can go wrong in any business. You can't say, no, if you go into this business, nothing can go wrong, So, and it's very difficult for a lot of older people to actually change their ways because they've developed bad and negative habits, poverty creation habits. But for young people, they don't have to change habits. They just have to create, which is much easier. Changing something, especially that has to do with a mindset, with habits, is difficult. But developing one, is very easy. So, and young people are going into employment, they are going to change the way they do things and all that. So that is the primary reason. But also young people are energetic, they are ready to try out things. This is their society. This is a technologically advanced society. They understand these things. They have more opportunities. They can create more wealth on their desk without going out. It's only if they can open their minds. Now the opportunities are plenteous. There are so many opportunities. There are people who are making, maybe 1,000 a day on a desk. Websites where you can only watch and they pay you. You can do editing. You can, there are many opportunities that are available. But those are opportunities that young people, if I go, for instance, Joburg is quite advanced, complex. I don't think of me going to Joburg and start driving myself. Some years back, I met a young lady. I think she came from Lesotho, Zimbabwe, I can't remember. She was in South Africa. She was working there. So what they were doing, every time they would pick her up. And those guys, no one has the time to be picking up somebody. They brought a car and say, here's a car, drive yourself. And I can't imagine. No, there's a difference between somebody who was, let me not even go to South Africa. Let's come to Lusaka. If you learn driving in Lusaka, it's very different from a person who has learned driving outside Lusaka. Especially in the more rural area. I heard of a man who had to park the bus at somewhere near the Kafue roundabout to call somebody to come and drive it into Lusaka. And that's many years ago. It's not even as advanced. Why? He learned it. Lusaka is foreign to him. But a person who learns to drive in Lusaka, it looks like a normal thing. Because it's part and parcel of Lusaka. Similarly, this generation, this stage of development, postmodern stage of development, the issue of technological advancements, the issue of the internet, artificial intelligence, and all these things, young people they can't even imagine a world without these things. But we lived not long ago. We lived in an era where there were no cell phones. Very few people had, and it used to be very big. The few that had cell phones, So because these young people are growing in this environment, they need to understand. They need to acquire the skills, and they need to acquire the mindset and the skills required to survive. They need to develop a character of achievers. Unfortunately, some of these principles, they are applicable regardless of a generation that you are in. There are no shortcuts.
All right. And in case you love to talk to us, send us a message on 0960-200-490. Send a WhatsApp message or a text message. This is the next generation of millionaires right here on Radio Christian Voice. And my name is Kunda. If you've been following these programs that we've started a couple of weeks back, and we've been having awesome and great conversations. And Doc, you were just talking about young people or youth and why this particular program is focused like that, and your passion, concerning young people. But maybe just on top of my head, I'm just thinking, when is like the right time to start talking to a young person, or the right age, start talking to young people, to a young person concerning financial literacy or financial education?
As early as possible. When they are learning the language, you begin to teach them. You remember, I've just talked about changing habits and forming habits. We need to make sure that young people, as early as possible, they begin to understand the financial concept, the wealth creation concepts. It's very, very important. Some years back, way back, a pastor friend had invited me to go to a church in one of the high density areas, and I had to teach people business. And every time I meet him, he says, Pastor Doc, some of those people now, their businesses have grown. At that point, those are people who are selling things like, amalasha akupimisha, cooking akupimisha. And what I did was to go as low as possible, make them understand the difference between, these are basic concepts. What's the difference between a sale, gross profit, and net profit? And we had to go as low as saying, okay, look here. Let's say you are going to sell fritters. What do you need? You need cooking oil, you need buy charcoal, you need flour, you need water. What is the cost of that? Okay, when you make the fritters, the next thing is that you are going to sell. When you sell, you have not made a profit, because at that level of thinking, any little money they make, they send mwana kuya mkushito msalo. That money that is going there, it's money that includes capital, it includes several other things. So they have to understand the concept of a profit. That a profit is you have to remove the money when you remove all the expenses of the things that you bought, but also you remove your labor, because there's a cost. Then what is remaining is your profit, and it is that profit that you use now to live on or to make other expenses. Now we had to break it down to that level to understand. So, but if we can begin to teach young people, our children, but we ourselves first have to know these things. Because how do you teach people what you don't have? You can't give somebody what you don't have. If you have no love in you, how do you love somebody else? So that's why it's very important to start as early as possible. That's why it's very important to also have an education system that prioritizes skills, first mindset change, and skills that are, or the education system that focuses not on jobs, but on creating, not seeking for jobs, but creating jobs. Let's give young people the education that makes them understand the possibilities, what it is that they can do, what they can become. It's very, very important, and that's why we need to start as early as we can.
I'm gonna share with you a story that recently happened. I attended a workshop, and there were very good and insightful conversations that we had in that particular workshop.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we were looking at in that workshop was we're looking at Zambians, and we're also looking at people that are coming from other countries.
Yeah.
So people that are now living in Zambia.
Yeah.
So they might be just, migrants, and they're now living here. And I remember the conversation was how these people that have migrated in Zambia, they seem to be doing very well when it comes to maybe even just like businesses, or when it comes to work. They seem to be more disciplined. They seem to be more successful than for us Zambians. And then one thing, when we had this conversation, one thing that came out so strong was also the issue of culture, and how as Zambians, how we've been raised and we've been believing that this, how life should be, is go to school, finish grade 12, go to university, after university, get employed, get married, chapwa.
I mean, you live in eternity, like
yes,
present continuous.
We've been programmed like that.
Yeah,
we've not been programmed like some of the things that you've been sharing, creating wealth and thinking how we can create wealth. But it's all about So Kunda is just gonna get an education, is gonna be employed,
and you start showing you start showing off your friends. Yes,
yeah. From there, I start showing off like this is what I have, and this is what
and everyone is looking. Kunda mukali.
And you just settled there, and I remember how we started this conversation. First, it was no, Zambians are lazy, but then it came to a conclusion like maybe Zambians are not lazy, but it's a culture thing, and it's a mindset thing.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, it's a mindset thing. So now we have young people today where information is so vast and they can just easily access information and all that. So as you, who's an expert, in changing mindset, how can we make sure that even young people access the right information?
Yeah, the information, in fact, when you have too much information, it also becomes a problem. It's just too much. I wonder how young people can fail to get, of course, they are doing it, but can fail to get a distinction at grade 12 or 6 points. Because information is just too much. In my time, we depended on the lecturer's notes or teacher's notes. That's all. Yeah. So if you are a good teacher, good luck for you. And if one person had a textbook, and you may find one person had a textbook in one subject, they would even boast. Those guys would be like they were Abbott. And to borrow from a classmate of mine, had physical and human geography, a textbook. Her father was a teacher. I borrowed it for a holiday. Now imagine if I can borrow for a holiday, what was she doing herself? So I borrowed it. I read it. I composed. So I don't even know where that idea came from. I composed songs about the clouds. So for me to memorize them, even when I was doing theology, to know the Greek alphabet, I had to compose a song, and sing it. And I was one of the few people who got a credit in geography. I think I had a 4. Even when I went to the university, when we met with other people, that geography was very difficult. Why? Information was limited. But today, information is plenteous. The question is, young people are not focused. I've been a student. In fact, I'm a lifelong student. I keep on studying. I don't stop studying. But I've also taught, the biggest disappointment I have with young people today, and if not even young people, but people who go to learn, who are advancing their education, academic qualifications, is that they go there to get papers. They don't go there to get knowledge. There's a big difference. When I was lecturing, these young people would come, sir, can you give us an indication where, which topics the exam will come from? I said, everything.
I hear those questions.
So then I moved a little bit. I was walking towards the administration block, and then I find a lecturer with a group of students asking the same question. And when I was lecturing, I could see no passion in young people wanting to learn. They were not asking questions. If you have students who are not asking questions, they are not learning. They are not exercising their minds. There is no intelligence, because intelligence is not determined by the answers that are given. Intelligence is determined by the type of questions that are asked. The person who is answering is just responding to the question. That is the problem with this generation. You need to be focused. Okay? You have to look at what sort of information, what area do you want to specialize in? You can't specialize in everything. This is the area, and you have to specialize in an area where you have passion. Because as I mentioned in the previous program, the passion is your fuel. You can't succeed in an area where you have no passion. So passion, where if you are passionate about something, you can go on and on and on and on. I can do programs, the whole day. If you are talking about something that I do training 3 days and I'm the only facilitator. 3 days. Straight on, because I'm talking about something that I'm passionate about, something that I love, and that is what. So you focus and you zero in. And in fact, Einstein, one of the celebrated geniuses, said that you can be a genius, in an expert in any subject, if you can only pick 15 minutes and concentrate on it every day. Read for 15 minutes on that topic every day, and you become an expert. You become a genius in that area. The problem with this generation of young people, your biggest problem is that you want to enjoy things at the wrong time. You want to have fun. That's what is preoccupied with the young people. That's why they can't concentrate. I ask even my children, and I say, you've gone to the university, you are full-time. How can you fail a subject? You are full-time. You are learning. I have bought all the books. You've packed food.
You've got internet to research.
You have internet. You have packed food. I've even added pocket money, and even in the middle you ask for mom, and there's food at the canteen, and I have never understood this, but I still do it because they must think my dad doesn't love me and all that. How do you fail a course when you are full-time at the university? In Bemba, you say, what you feel in Sakwe? Like, you shift so that you can concentrate. My mind, you have all the books. We buy all the books. Why? It's a focus. You want to enjoy. It's the character. Our generation has actually destroyed your generation and those younger than you, in the sense that we've ended up providing everything for you. We struggled when we were growing up. We struggled, and as a result of that struggle, we struggled to make ends meet, and eventually we ended up succeeding. However it is, at least we are better off than our parents were, a lot of us. Some people are worse than their parents, unfortunately. But a few of us are far much better than our parents. But then when you live in that kind of an environment, you begin to shield your children from problems. I'm not saying you subject them to problems also, but you have to make sure that you grill them in the principles of hard work and all that. So, and when you shield them, you find that they lose, because character has to be developed, and it's developed based on the things that you go through. That's why God allows us to go through problems. He doesn't make us go over the problems or around the problem. It says when you pass through, that's what the Bible says. So that is the biggest challenge that we have. So young people need to develop, you have to prioritize life. What is the most important thing when you're young? It's not time to have fun. It's not time to enjoy. How can you begin to enjoy when you own nothing? This is the time to be able to establish your foundation. There's an exercise that I do. I have combined concepts that were developed in 1950. I think, was it by a man called Erik Erikson? He talked about human development. How people, I think it talks about 8 stages of human development. And each stage, there is a psychological state, and there's a task that you have to do. From the time that you are a baby up to the time that you are, I think, 65 and above. And so what I've done is that I've superimposed now education, the wealth creation. I start, because most of the people I deal with are 18 years and above. So I start at 18 years. So I say 18 years, these are your tasks. This is the psychological makeup according to Erik Erikson. These are your psychological problems, but financially, this is what you should be doing. And I say at 18, develop a career. As you are moving to 24, you have already established a career. Now, begin to gain more skills, begin to gain experience, begin to get advanced education, qualifications, but also begin to invest in yourself. Education financial education. When you do financial education, and at that point, you need to invest a lot. And at that point also set financial goals. Okay? At what point do you want to be a millionaire in dollars? Or even a millionaire in kwacha, Yeah. But at what point do you want to be a millionaire? You have to set a goal. Well, I have what I call a wealth creation triangle. Wealth creation triangle. At the top is a goal. And the goal comes from two things. Number one, you have to imagine, you have an image, a vision, an image of the type of life you want to have in future. It's qualitative. You can't quantify it, but you know that this is the type of life I want to live. Then you move on to the next stage, and then you say, what net worth, we are now becoming more specific. What net worth how wealth should I be in terms of net worth to live this kind of lifestyle? So that is the top part. Then the left bottom of the corner, of the angle, that's where we now talk about mindset. And somebody has said mindset is 80%. If you have right mindset, you have achieved 80% of your goal. Because the left side of the angle, of the corner, in this wealth creation triangle, are strategies, like the things you need to do. But most of the people just begin at the angle. No goal. There's just no, most people find when they're teaching others, wealth, they just say, no, this is how you do a business, there's a business plan. It's not even connected to anything. So that's why it's important at that point, a young person invests himself into these things, into wealth creation. Don't worry about showing off good shoes, to be respected by friends, and to have cars and all these things. Invest in your education. Recently, I think as late as last week, if not the other week, I spend, when I have time, I spend time on TikTok. So I just go through. If it's nonsense, I pass over it. But then I find those things about Africa, about development, about health. When I get a glimpse, if it's something I'm interested in, I go to YouTube or the general internet or Google. I search for it and I get the detailed information. So there was this man. Generally, what has been recommended over the years is that when you're earning income, save 10%. It's called pay yourself first. 10%, save it. Tithe to yourself. So if you're a believer, tithe to God, but then tithe to yourself. Pay yourself first, because if you don't pay anyone else, they will remind you. And they remind you in crude ways. If you don't pay DSTV, they will remind you by switching off. If you don't subscribe, if you don't pay for, you don't get bundles or you don't get airtime, your reminder will be, you do not have sufficient credit to make this call. And they don't use a rough voice like mine. They use a very beautiful, nice, mostly female voice where you feel like buying some more. So that is the challenge. But this man, here's what he says. He is recommending that you save 40%. It's in an American context where they pay taxes equivalent to 40%. So he said 40% tax. The other 40%, pay yourself. Save it, store it up somewhere. What is remaining is what you should live on. And then he was giving an example of a person who's getting $8,000. So he says 40%, 40% of that goes to, I think it came like something like, I think $3,000. I can't remember. You pay the government, $3,000 you save, $2,000 is what you live on. If you can't survive on that $2,000, increase your earnings. I said, this is a radical thinking. So don't worry about cars, don't worry about, houses and being in these places. But the problem is that young people, including older people, want to appear wealth when they are not wealth. So that is something that you have to be radical to be able to create wealth, to be able to be the next generation of millionaires. And probably 99% of most of young people we are talking to, they are not ready, they are not prepared, they are not ready to put in what it takes.
Wow. We seem to be running out of time, Doc, and yeah, it's been great having these conversations, very enlightening, and I pray that as you are listening, you taking this information and beginning to apply it to your life. And remember, we're back next week at the same time, but we can simply follow us as well on all our socials, and you can catch some of our live videos from there as well. You can watch them later on, watch them again and again and again, because they're just going to be there on our social media: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Radio Christian Voice. So do make sure that you get to follow us. Doc, thank you so much for coming through.
You're most welcome.
All right, so until next week, thank you so much for keeping it Radio Christian Voice. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.